selling a portfolio of inherited properties. Hey guys, this is Brad from probateresource.com. I'm the founder of Probate Resource, and I built Probate Resource to be a one-stop shop online for anyone going through the probate process to get help with all the questions they might have. We're also a real estate solutions company. We buy properties for cash, and we have a fantastic network of real estate agents all over the US who are probate inheritance specialists. If you're interested in working with us, go to probateresource.com or click on the link below in the descriptions. I'll take you to our site and fill out the form. All right, let's get to it today. So you've inherited a portfolio of rental properties from a loved one or someone that you know. What do you do with these properties? Do you keep them? Do you sell them? Do you sell them all together? Do you sell them individually? What is the best route to take? Well, first of all, let's start with the first topic. Okay. If you want to keep them, maybe there's a management company in place or maybe there's not. Property management is a tough business. Okay. I've owned lots of rental properties. I know firsthand, maybe when you're watching this, you've never managed a rental property in your life. Well, I'm here to tell you that they can be high maintenance and sometimes they're not. Depending on the age of the portfolio that you've inherited, they may have some deferred maintenance. Maybe they don't, right? Maybe the person who owned them before took good care of them and kept them up to date, and they're not a lot of capital expenditures to have to worry about. Capital expenditures are major expenses like replacing roofs and HVAC units and all of that other stuff, right? All the big ticket items, right? You need to be setting aside money every single month to pay for those expenses as they come. Not all of the cash flow that you receive every single month is yours to keep. There's a certain percentage that you need to set aside to do maintenance and repairs and capital expenditures. Okay, so maybe they did take good care of them, and maybe you're 5 to 10, maybe 15 years out from any major capital expenditures. Good for you. That's awesome. If you're not, you need to be thinking about that because these houses, if you're a regular composite shingle roof, an asphalt shingle roof, you're depending on where you live in the country, you might get 20 years out of them, maybe 15, maybe 25. It just really depends, right? So you need to be thinking about that. I'm going to have to replace a roof. Well, guess what? It's 2024, and with inflation and construction prices shooting up like a rocket over the last few years, it's not cheap to replace a roof. Basically, our roofing replacement costs have almost doubled in the last probably 2 to 3 years. They cost almost twice as much as they did 2 or 3 years ago. So that's pretty crazy, right? For example, I just got a quote to do a tear off and replacement on a double wide mobile home that I own, and the quote was $5,000 to do just a double wide. We just did a roof on a house, I guess it's been about a year ago now. We replaced the roof on one of our flips. We've been fortunate in the last year where we didn't have to replace any roofs. But the one we did, it was just a relatively small house. It was $6,000 to do a tear off and replacement on that house. HVAC units, our average HVAC unit replacement nowadays is costing us around $7,000 versus just a few years ago, it was about $4,000. So that goes to tell you the cost of everything has gone up significantly. Plus all the other things to break in a house, plumbing, electrical, repainting, there's always maintenance on rental properties. So if you have a portfolio, you need to make sure that you've got someone that can do the maintenance for you, or maybe you have a management company and they're managing the maintenance for you. I will tell you that a lot of management companies mark up the maintenance costs. So they have their preferred contractors. Their contractors will come in and say, okay, it's going to be, $100 to fix this, whatever. And they're going to mark it up usually 20, 30%. So they're going to charge you $120, $130 for that same repair item. Also, you're going to have tenants who push the limits. And especially if there's a new management company, those tenants are going to kind of test the boundaries. And they might ask for lots of things to be fixed and repaired that maybe don't really need to be fixed and repaired. Maybe they do. But sometimes there are tenants that will just like, I don't like this stove. I'm going to complain that the stove is broken when in fact the stove's not really broken. And they're going to test the limits to see if they can just get a brand new stove. Maybe they don't just like the way it cooks, but maybe it's functionally fine or whatever, right? They don't like the way it looks. So there are tenants that will do that will try to just submit lots of maintenance requests to try to get things replaced. And maybe those things don't necessarily need to be replaced. Maybe they do. I can't really answer that in this video, right? So you need to think about that from a maintenance perspective if you are going to keep them. And then also management-wise, do you want to take all the phone calls? If you don't want to take all the phone calls, maybe it's best to hire a property management company. And in which case, which property management company do you hire to manage these properties? I will tell you that the crazy part about the property management business, and I know a lot of guys who have started property management businesses and gotten out of that business because they realize that it sucks. It is a lot of work for not a lot of money, because most property management companies all charge right around the same amount, typically anywhere from 8 to 12% of the monthly rent as their management fee. So you've got all these companies, and depending on where you live, you may have to be a licensed broker to have a management company. Maybe you don't. And you've got all these companies, and they're not all created equal. And they're basically all charging around the same amount. Like a good management company it's hard for them to create a value proposition to charge more money because we're really good. Most landlords or whatever are going to say, this guy over here will do it for 10% too. Or, this guy over here will do it for 9%. He'll do it cheaper, right? It's an unrewarding, unfulfilling business. So you are going to get a lot of people in the property management company who maybe they're burned out, or maybe they're good operators. There are some really good operators out there that have really defined processes and people. And if you're that kind of person who nerds out over having these like really dialed in systems and processes for managing properties, then maybe that's a company you need to go with. If you don't know anything about what I'm talking about or any of that, it's going to be hard for you to distinguish between a good company and a bad company. There are good companies and there are bad companies out there. I will say there's a lot more bad companies out there than there are good companies. So maybe if you know somebody else who's in the real estate management business, maybe ask for their suggestion on who they think is a good property manager. I would not advise you to ask real estate agents for referrals on property management companies unless that real estate agent either has owned or owns rental properties or has clients or investors who own lots of rental properties and can make a referral. Because the reality is a lot of real estate agents have never owned an investment property in their life and probably never will own an investment property in their life. Surprisingly, a lot of real estate agents don't even own their own residence, which is crazy to me. They sell houses for a living and they don't even own their own home. They rent. Doesn't make any sense. So make sure you're keeping that in mind. All right, so let's jump to the next step. Do you sell these properties? We talked about keeping them, right? And the things to think about. Do you sell the properties as a package, or do you sell them individually? And what I'll say to that is that if you're selling them as a package, first of all, you need to have a real estate agent who is well experienced in the investment real estate space. If these are all single family homes, you need to have a real estate agent who really has experience working with investors, and not just working with flippers, but like working with landlords that can market this package to the right people. Because you have to remember, when you're selling a portfolio of properties, you're selling that portfolio to an investor. The average everyday person is not buying a portfolio of rental properties, right? They're buying one property, right? Maybe they're buying one as a rental, but most average people are not buying a whole portfolio of rental properties. They don't even have the money and they've never done it before. So you're selling to investors. And typically an investor who's going to buy an entire portfolio of rental properties is going to be pretty savvy. And they're going to have their numbers dialed in and they're going to know their numbers. So don't be surprised if you get lowball offers from an investor if you don't have an agent who doesn't A, know how to price the houses appropriately, B, doesn't know how to market this to the correct audience, which is investors, right? And get those right investors. and C, doesn't know how to properly value the properties. Rental properties are valued based off of the income that they generate, right? And if you have an agent or whatever, you're listing this portfolio of rental properties and you're advertising all these properties out there and you're advertising them at I've seen some come across my desk at a 6 cap. A cap is the capitalization rate. So essentially, on a good day with a 6 cap, your return on investment is 6%, right? I've had them trying to sell these properties essentially at a 6 cap. 6% ROI, return on your money, right? You can go get a high yield savings account and make 5+% on a high yield savings account right now. So if you were an investor and you had the choice between managing all of these rental properties with all the headaches that come along with that, all the fixing this and fixing that and having to do this and dealing with the property management company and blah, 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 and actively managing this investment, or sticking your money for maybe a little bit less, 5.25% in a high yield savings account, which one would you do? You're probably going to take the easy route and you're going to put it in the high yield savings account. So think about that for a second. If your agent is trying to sell a portfolio of single family residences at a 6 cap, people are going to think you're smoking crack. And the investors are going to laugh at you and you're going to get these lowball offers from them because they're actually offering them at a number that makes sense to them. Because managing single family homes can be a pain in the butt. I've done it before. I get it. I've had property management companies I managed in-house. They are not passive by any means whatsoever. Okay. They are great and they can produce a lot of great money, and the appreciation, depending on where you own, are great. But the reality is that managing single family homes can be a pain in the butt. So an investor who is investing in these things is going to look at the return on investment and figure out whether that's worth it to them. Most are going to be looking for probably somewhere at least of an 8 to 12% return on investment, right? If they're getting that, then maybe it's worth it to them. So think about that for a second. Don't try to throw it out there at a pie in the sky price. What I will tell you is that if you have single family homes, if you're trying to maximize all of the money that you get out of these properties, you need to sell these properties individually, not as a package. And if you sell them individually, you need to get the tenants out of the property and you need to do necessary repairs and fix the place up, paint it, replace the carpet or whatever. And in this market right now, today in 2024, where inventory is very, very low, you need to figure out a way to get that tenant out of the property, whether they're on a lease or not. I don't know how you're going to do that. That's for you to figure out. I've done other videos about getting tenants out of rental properties. You can go check those out. But you need to get the property vacant. You need to spruce it up a little bit. You don't need to do a ton to it, but just spruce it up a little bit. And you need to sell that property individually. Because then when you sell that property individually, you're going to get Johnny and Susie who are looking for their first new house, their first-time home buyers, and they are going to pay a heck of a lot more money than Steve, the investor down the street, who's looking for an ROI. So think about that for a second. So if you have a portfolio of rental properties, I think it's best to sell them off individually than to sell them as a package. Now, selling them in a package is much easier from a convenience perspective, right? You can sell them all together. The investor is going to buy all of them and buy all the headaches that come along with them all at once. And if they buy them at the price that they want, then great. Awesome. Do that, right? It comes with a price, right? So you sell to the investor, you're going to sell them at a little bit of a discount, but you don't have to deal with all the headache, and you can sell this entire portfolio all at once of all these properties you've inherited. Or you can go the individual route and sell them one by one by one by one. That takes time, that takes money and effort invested, but it will, in most cases, pay you more money at the end of the day than the other one. Only you can decide what's worth more to you, whether you want to go the easy route or you want to go the hard route and make a little bit more money, right? What is your time worth to you? And only you can decide that. What I'm going to say about selling them as a package, I mentioned you need to sell through a good agent, or maybe you reach out to an investor. We actually buy packages of rental properties. I'm an experienced investor. I've been doing this for a long time. I've owned rental properties, bought, sold, currently own, whatever, all of the above over the years. At Probate Resource, we buy real estate. We even buy portfolios of properties, commercial properties, all of the above. I will tell you that there are people out there that advertise that they'll buy these things. And these people are known as wholesalers. And they will make you offers that seem too good to be true. And they will waste your time. And they will you'll tell them, hey, because their eyes will perk up when they hear you say, oh, I've got this whole package of rental properties I want to sell. They're like, ooh, cool. So I make $10,000 or $15,000 a deal on a wholesale times 10 houses. I can make $150,000 in wholesaling fees, and I can, go hang out on the beach, and I can go buy that new car, and I can do all this stuff. Because the reality is, a lot of these wholesalers, they blow all of their money. They spend it all on stupid stuff. And 2 years from now, they're going to be trading crypto, and they're going to be chasing the next big thing and chasing the dollar for the rest of their life, because they're not actually real experienced investors. If you are dealing with those people, make sure you're dealing with a reputable company. And they're going to go try to sell your deal at 6% and act like a broker. A lot of them are brokering without a license. They don't realize that they're actually, what they're doing is they're acting as a broker, right? So they're going to go try to basically broker your deal out to some other investor. And the other investor is going to look at the number and laugh and say, like I said, right? Why would I buy this at a 6 cap when I can go stick my money in a high yield savings account and earn less than 1% less and have zero headaches, have zero tenant phone calls, have zero roofs to replace, zero toilets to fix, zero headache, right? Why would I do that? No one would do that, right? So that's what you need to think about. I'm going to tell you about one more strategy here before I go. I know this is a long video, but I think it's important because this is a very niche topic, and I think it's really important. Think about seller financing the portfolio. If you want to get a good, serious investor and sell a whole package at once, think about seller financing the portfolio. This is advanced level stuff here. And why would you seller finance the portfolio? The deal will go faster, because the investor doesn't have to go through sort of the process of maybe they have cash, but most investors, the reality is, are buying with cash and then refinancing out immediately thereafter, or sometimes the day of closing. I do that, right? I'll buy properties and we'll immediately refinance out. Our private lenders, like ASAP, right? But our private lenders enable us to buy these properties like that. And we have the speed and the flexibility to do it. And then we'll just put them into long-term institutional debt after that. Well, if you have an investor who's trying to do long-term institutional debt right off the bat, they're going to have to get appraisals done on all these properties and all these things and go through that whole process and basically get approved to buy this package of loans. It's a commercial loan, so it's easier than a single-family residential property in terms of approval process, but it's still a little bit more in depth. If you sell or finance a property, your estate will continue to receive cash flow from these assets over time, plus interest. So you still get interest and cash flow over time. So think about that for a minute. If you want to learn more about how that might work and how the mechanics of all that work, I'd be happy to hop on the phone with you and explain to you and maybe give you some ideas. In fact, I had a guy call me a few months back off of one of our YouTube videos, and he said, hey, I've got all these rental properties I inherited from my dad, and I saw your other video about seller financing. Like, how could I structure this and do this? And I gave him some ideas, and I said, you could do this, this, and this. He said, that sounds really, like, I never knew that was even a thing, right? And then I said, yeah. And then I connected him with my attorney in that market. And I said, call if you want to do this. And he wasn't interested in really selling the portfolio to me at the time. He just had some ideas about financing this thing. And I connected him with an attorney, and I said, call this attorney. He can write up, he can take everything that we said conceptually and write it up in like legal terms and create a good contract for you, so that you're protected and your buyer's protected and all the things. I hope this helps you out. I know this video is really long. I tend to talk a lot, but I think I'm giving you a lot of good information here. So if you are interested, if you've inherited a portfolio of rental properties and you are interested in selling the portfolio altogether or selling them piecemeal, like I said before, we buy properties at Probate Resource. I'm a real estate investor, have been for a long time. I Buy Properties. Would love to take a look at your portfolio and make you an offer on that portfolio, or we can get you connected with one of our local agents in your market. Again, we have agents all over the US that we work with. We'd be happy to connect you with one of those agents, maybe in your specific market, to list the properties for you on the market. So thanks again for checking out this video. I'm Brad with probateresource.com. Appreciate you watching the video. Have a great day. Bye-bye.